All right, back at it on the Success Flow podcast. And in this episode, we're going to do something similar to what we did in episode 23, except this time we'll be tuning into a conversation between Stephen and our friend Ryan Madrid on the Into the Storm podcast. In this conversation, you'll get a little insight onto Stephen's journey to corporate America, how he then later co-founded Journey Payroll, and most recently, the passion project he's been building that's turned into a side business, OppoFlow, which you've heard a little bit on past episodes, but this will give you a little deeper insight into that backstory. So enjoy this conversation between Stephen and Ryan on the Into the Storm podcast, and let us know your thoughts.
So we have Stephen Harris here today. We've been going for about 30 minutes now about the good old days.
Yeah.
Go back. The remember when stories, as I like to call them. When people start doing that, I go, are we doing this? Are we going to do remember when stories?
Yeah, we're bring back the good old days.
Remember when I used to do that? Okay. But we did it, and it's good, and it's over. So, hey, Stephen Harris is here. Welcome to Into the Storm. Stephen Harris is here with Journey Payroll, and we are here to talk about that, but we have some other stuff we want to get into. So he's in our junto, or junto. Nobody really knows exactly how to say it, but I think the books say it's junto because, it was started by Benjamin Franklin and had a little Latin flair to it, and I think that's why it's called junto. But we will never call it that.
We'll never know exactly how to call it. Junto, however you want to say it.
Junto. So we've had a lot of guys on this podcast from junto or junto. We're going to call it, I call it junto, you call it junto?
I call it junto.
And I'll call it junto.
At least I get half of it right. Junto. So that's our networking group that we have for our leaders, business owners, and C-suite people.
Yeah.
Stemmed from maybe a little bit of a B&I sort of deal, but it's been real powerful, I think, in your life and my life, and obviously we built a lot of good friends from that. And you were just talking about how your life, 5 years later after joining your first B&I group, it's elevated immensely, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that I think the people you met and the people you surrounded yourself with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, okay, let's back up a little bit then. We were talking about how you knew our cousin Amy, so we won't do that anymore because you went to Horizon High School, yada, yada, yada. You grew up in North Scottsdale. So you went to ASU.
For a year.
For a year. Yeah. Okay, so where did you meet Phil then?
So I met Phil. He actually started working for my dad. Him and I both joined my dad's company at the same time in 2008.
Okay, so you're a college dropout.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, I did
get
kids,
you don't need to go to college. It's very expensive. Please don't go.
I did get an associate's at ITT Tech.
Okay.
In computer drafting and design.
Oh, nice.
So like a lot of this stuff in the playbook here, like graphic design was what I wanted to get into.
Okay, cool.
It's a lot of that. And then I actually got an architectural job at 20 years old. I was drawing lines all day. I was a CAD monkey.
Wow.
AutoCAD, drawing lines, construction documents, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Then I wanted to get into sales, and I'm like, I can't sit here and draw lines with headphones on all day.
Right.
So it was like, this is not meant for me. Plus, I was like 21, making $25,000 a year, and I was like, I want to just start making some money, and sales was the way to go.
Right.
So my dad hired me when I was 22.
And your dad had a company that was similar. It was a payroll company, or was it like a software company that worked with payroll company?
It was a software company that worked with payroll. So he's an entrepreneur, software developer, started this business in the mid-90s. First client came on board in 97. So I grew up with it, saw all this stuff. But it was a payroll tax software that Fortune 500.
Hold on. How did your dad get into software development if
there's like no internet?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that's crazy.
It is. There's no internet.
Can we say how old he is? How old is he?
He's 69.
Okay, that's not that old.
He'll be 70 in July.
But still, there wasn't the internet, and
no.
So
there's a fax machine.
Tell me about it. So, what has he told you when you've asked him, like, how in the hell did you even know to even do this?
Dude, he has a book. He literally wrote the entire software like by hand, like in a book. Like he wrote out the code and then he hired consultants that would do the development. So he was the brains, and then he would hire them to do like a lot of leg work while he was troubleshooting and quality management, all that stuff. But he always was in computers. So he has this thing where when he was, 20, 22, right before, he didn't go to college either.
Yeah, you don't need to go to college.
Entrepreneurs sometimes don't, I guess.
Yes.
But it was like, 19, he was born in 54. So this is early 70s, right? and he sees on the TV a commercial that says, "Do you know anything about computers? If not, call here. This could change your life."
Wow.
And he's like, "I'm doing that." And he called this number, and he's like, "Sure as shit, it changed my life." And so he learned computers. He went to a trade school just to learn computers. And these are like big, massive, like they're not the computers that we know, right? And so he learned the trade of computers there and just ran with it, and then was like C-level at some company. I think it was called Systems Tax Service or something, which offered tax processing for businesses or whatever. And he came to with this idea, is like, hey, what if instead of us offering a service, what if we developed a software that they could use to do their own processing in-house? And they said, that's not the direction we want to go. And he goes, all right, well, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go do this, right? So he moved to Arizona, started developing it, met his business partner who was like the backer, the money guy. He calls it first angel investor, and they built MasterTax, which is now still the largest, most successful payroll tax software in the world. He sold the company at ADP in 2010, which is the largest global payroll company.
So what does it do exactly?
The tax software?
Yeah.
So it's okay. So like think of how TurboTax files are.
Say, how could it be bigger than TurboTax?
Okay, so TurboTax is our personal income taxes.
Yeah.
Right? So when we get our W-2, we plug in the information, or it syncs over from your employer, and it files your personal income and state tax returns. MasterTax was for payroll tax. So the difference is when you have a paycheck, you have your gross wages, then your federal and state income tax is deducted from there. Well, there's a couple other tax buckets that are deducted. That's your Social Security and your Medicare. That's the payroll tax. So that tax is paid to the IRS. The business has to pay those taxes. They deduct from the employee's check, and then they pay those taxes to the IRS and the state agencies. MasterTax would schedule, pay, balance, and file all of that when you file your tax returns and W-2s and paying all those taxes that way.
Okay, so it just does it for the company.
It does it for the company. It's not a consumer-based product. It's B2B. Yeah.
Wow. So in 2010, ADP bought them. So did you go straight to ADP to work with ADP then?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So I started in 2008, and it was funny, back up just a little bit. My dad had asked me to come work for him for like a year, and I kept turning him down. First of all, I'm like, what the hell is payroll and taxes? It sounds like boring as hell.
Yeah.
And I was into graphic design, all this stuff, like kind of creativity stuff. But my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she said, well, if it wasn't your dad, would you take the job? Would you take the opportunity? Because it was sales. I wanted to get into sales. And I said, yeah, 100%. It's a great opportunity. Why would I pass it up? She goes, well, don't be an idiot. Go work at the company and build your resume, and then you can divert from there. So I did, and 2 years later, he sold the company ADP, which is the largest payroll company in the world, and quite frankly, one of the best sales organizations in the world. It doesn't matter what you sell, but they invest so much into their sales team. Yeah. I learned everything about sales through the ADP world. Great company to work for, but I just couldn't be a lifer in corporate America. I just didn't have any. I think just coming from an entrepreneurial family and my dad and watching that, growing up, it was like, I'm going to end up doing my own thing at some point. So worked there until 2017 until we launched the Phoenix location at Journey Payroll.
So ADP they're really good at like picking talented people out of school, that are, it's like Enterprise Rent-A-Car, ADP, some of these like really good, it's great training because a lot of people from ADP go on to do big things or they may go on to do like medical sales or something like that. But ADP is definitely a good stepping stone. You have a question already?
Yeah, well, it's another family thing, but April Young,
we've already asked this question.
Oh, she worked for ADP?
Yeah.
You already knew this. Okay.
But he doesn't know her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, there's 25,000 people at ADP.
Well, I didn't know if like locally. I don't know.
No, I mean, so they have so many products. It's more than just payroll. They do all sorts of stuff. Primarily business to business back office stuff like, electronic wage payments like pay cards and just tax alone, garnishment processing for child supports, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they're huge. 25,000 employees, I think it is.
Wow. Okay.
And they have about 6,000 or 7,000 of them are sales alone. So they have like zip codes. Like when you're a sales rep for ADP, you have like 5 zip codes, and that's your territory.
I met a guy recently playing golf that's with ADP, and he never heard of you or April. Yeah. And he's been with them for 15 years. Yeah. And he actually lives in Verrado.
Who is it?
Yeah, it's huge.
Oh, you can tell me later.
Yeah. You don't know.
Okay.
Well, there's
he's only been there for like 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 major divisions, depending on size of company you work for. I was in a division that was like, no one even knew we existed. Right. We weren't even core payroll. We were like added value services because we were software. Yeah. Right. I was still selling MasterTax, but ADP is very much service-based.
Okay. So you were still selling MasterTax?
I was. Okay. So I sold and actually who I was selling it to was independent payroll providers across the country. So I learned how to operate a payroll company indirectly by selling them a tax software. And I had made up my mind that I was going to start my own payroll company right around 2009, 2010. And I sat down and I told my dad, hey, this is something I want to do. And he goes, well, before you do that, we're selling the company to ADP. Be a sponge. Learn everything you possibly can from them. They're the best sales organization in the world, and they're the biggest payroll company in the world. When you're ready and it happens, like when the time comes and you're ready to jump, you'll know. It was the best advice I ever got. So instead of jumping in to start my own deal at 24, I stayed with ADP for another 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And I took all their leadership classes. I got certified in payroll, and I started asking questions. Like I started asking my clients and my prospects questions like, well, who do you serve? Like, what's your average client size? Or like, you know, what do you love about this? And so I learned how to become a payroll company by selling Master Tax to them.
So you had all the notes, basically, just everything that you needed to know, you had an answer for that at some point.
I did, yeah.
So what did ADP think about when you said, I'm leaving? Did they know you were going to start your own company?
They didn't, no. Okay. And they actually sent me a letter when they found out. Yeah, like a non-compete type thing. But I wasn't doing the same thing. Like when I was at ADP, I was selling a tax software to payroll companies, not selling small business payroll service, you know, or payroll service to small businesses. Yeah. But how Journey got started though is I didn't start it from scratch myself. Right. I met a gentleman named Kevin Welch. He's in Fort Collins, Colorado. Journey was known as TLC Payroll, Timely, Local, and Committed, just a little privately held payroll company in Fort Collins. When I was living in Denver at the time, Kevin and I really connected and became close friends, and I was actually trying to sell a Master Tax. Okay. And I drove up to Fort Collins to do that, and 15 minutes of our 2-hour conversation was about Master Tax. The other hour and 45 was how can we figure out a way to work together. Right. At the time, I had told him I was moving back to Phoenix and said, okay, well, you should run a Phoenix office for me. I was like, I'm still at ADP. Things are going well. Well, fast forward to corporate America and how they jack around your comp plans and quotas and all that stuff. I had to sell the same amount, but make $80,000 less. That's how they restructure my comp plan. I was like, damn, this like really sucks. And I kind of had it. And I was like, all right. So I reached back out to Kevin. I was like, hey, was that opportunity still on the table? He said, yeah. So for a year, from 2016 to 2017, we planned a pre-launch of what this could look like, rebranded to Journey. We launched the Phoenix location as a franchise agreement because legally we wanted 100% ownership of our location, and that was the only way to do it. And then what came of it is 3 years later, we proved the model, and now Journey's expanding nationwide through local ownership. There's 5 or 6 other Journey offices across the country because of what we were able to accomplish.
So is he sole owner of like the franchise agreements then?
He owns Journey franchise.
Okay.
We own.
So you own your own deal. So does he take a cut off of your branch?
Just like any other, just like any other franchise, is a little royalty. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But that's it. It's a little royalty. And what happened? What's great about it is it gave us the foundation, proven software, a little bit of support on the back end, but we do everything in house. So my team, we're at Central and Indian School. My staff is my staff. Our clients are our clients. We operate as a full-fledged payroll company. We just leverage them for marketing and software.
Okay.
And then we just.
What about like HR, IT, all that stuff?
Like I got to do my own printers. We got to do our own setup. We got to do, every time we hire a new employee, they're our employee. We got to set them up. Right?
Are you the sole owner?
Me and Jamie, my business partner.
Oh, Jamie. Okay.
Yeah. Jamie Anderson, her and I go way back to the Master Tax days. We were hired the same year as well. So her and I were hired in 2008, grew up together within the ADP world, and we had always talked about this dream of becoming entrepreneurs and bringing a better way to payroll for small businesses. And then I called her up in 2016 and I was like, what if we just partnered instead of like from complete scratch? Mm-hmm. And granted, we had no clients, but we had a foundation to build off of. And it wasn't like we had to go build a website. We had to go find software and all that, right? So she goes, okay, tell me more. So we flew out to Fort Collins together, met the group, fell in love with their vision. They lead with heart. We obviously lead with heart. We care about what we do. And so it aligned. And so we said, yeah, let's make the jump. And it's been a grind for sure, but here I am 6 years later, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't have changed anything for the world. But the first 4.5 years, they were tough. Like,
eating ramen and rice and beans.
I mean, even still, kind of, but but I mean, the scaling, like you don't have enough money to hire staff yet, so it's all on you, right? Yeah. And so
and you're not even on the sales side anymore at all, really, right? You're these operations mainly. Jamie runs mostly the sales side.
She does, yeah. So she runs all the sales. We have another business development person. We both kind of started in sales. Yeah. But after about 2 years, I needed to focus on operations. And so I was doing all of our new client setups. I was doing all of our client trainings. We hired a payroll manager who's been with us almost 5 years. She's incredible. She's We call at Junto, what do we call it? Like a unicorn. When you have a unicorn on your team, she's our unicorn. Frankie's amazing. And so
where does she come from? Does she come from ADP too?
No, she actually came from a staffing firm. She was a part owner of a staffing firm. So she understands business, which is why she thrives so well.
Yeah.
She understands the business side of things versus just, being a processor or whatever, right? When we first brought her on as a specialist, it was like night and like when we brought her on, we're like, oh shit, we got a good one here. And so we just continue to scale, and she's continued to grow with us, and it's been incredible.
What's been the hardest part?
I think the hardest part is just development and turnover, like finding the right people. Like we got lucky with her early on, but we have a team of 8, so we're small business supporting small business, but we've probably let go or other people have quit probably 12,
Right.
So it's like until you find your core group, I think the hardest part is, especially as you're growing, it's really hard to share your vision when you're like in a little office in Tempe with 4 people.
Right.
Right. And I think that's the hardest part is when you're small and you're bootstrapping this thing. But once you get the buy-in from the team, it's incredible. And the growth, once you let go yourself and give them the autonomy to like kind of just figure things out, that was the hardest part for me personally, was like, if I'm not touching it, it won't work. That was my mentality.
Right.
And it was the wrong mentality.
Do you think that you hired incorrectly and you hired some good people that you lost them because they just didn't buy in fast enough, or it just wasn't working quite yet?
I think it was, so we never had a bad year. Like every year we've grown more than 45% year over year, which is incredible growth, right? But when you're starting small, those numbers are huge.
Right. You went from $45.90.
Yeah, exactly. So we 100% growth. You know what I mean? It's all percentage.
Yeah.
But I think there is some of that where we had this one sales gal who was with us for 5 months, and she got an opportunity to make like $150,000 somewhere. We could not afford $150,000 sales rep. What are you going to do? You can't compete with that financially. So I think that there was a little bit of that. And then there was also, you have people that just literally send a text like, I'm not coming in again.
Yeah.
What the hell? Yeah. And
Adults?
Oh yeah, these are like 30-year-old people that are just like, I'm not, and it'd be like in January during year end when we need like the team there for like W-2 process and all. So guess who's coming back? All of us who were there, like it's all of us coming back together, and it's just, it puts all that work back on the
So now that it's been 6 years, have you guys like thought about the fact that the ones that have been with you since the beginning going, okay, how are we gonna keep them around?
Yeah.
I mean, have you guys thought about the fact that they all know that it's just you and Jamie that own the company at the end of the day? Like, you want to get them into your vision and your mission and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's really just yours.
Yeah.
Besides giving them raises and making it like an economic thing, have you thought about like long-term stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's always
profit
in the
sharing.
I think that's always in the conversation. So Frankie's been with us almost 5 years. Our next tenured person is only 2 years. Everyone else is under 2 years, so we're still fairly young.
Yeah.
But I think there would be a natural progression. Our team out in Fort Collins, our headquarters office, they have a lot of shareholders that they kind of like have equity with. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Jamie and I have really had that type of conversation, but profit sharing, something like that type of deal. I mean, there's a lot of people in our group, Junto, that do that with their teams and whatnot. And so kind of learning how that operates, I think that's definitely on the table, because at the end of the day, you're right. You can get buy-in from an organization, but but there's also motivating factors that has nothing to do monetarily. Like there's people that love doing what they do because of some other reason. It has nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
But I think profit sharing and different ideas are absolutely, I think you have to be innovative with that.
You guys do a lot for the corporate culture thing too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys keep it lively over in the office.
Yeah, we always got them, Hey Alexa or Hey Siri or whatever, playing some sort of music. Or, we always have it. And we built out, COVID taught us that we don't need everyone in the office every day. Mm-hmm. And so we built out hybrid work from home schedules for everybody, and team really likes that. We get out at least once a quarter as a group and do some fun things. And a lot of this like mindset stuff. Like, I'm a big advocate for entrepreneurship, a big advocate for intrapreneurship, which is someone in an organization that has that business-minded entrepreneur mindset that's, working at their working at their career. But having a growth mindset and recognizing and preparing for the opportunities that can come your way, like we teach this stuff with our team. It's not just a job to anybody over there, right? Like in our group, it's how do we better ourselves each and every day, personally and professionally. And I think I learned a lot of that from Junto, right? In the last couple of years, coming from corporate America and like trying to do the 8 to 5 and being kind of micromanaging a little bit, it's like that shit doesn't work. And so we adapted pretty quickly and like, let's just do it our way and just lead with heart. And we're all humans. Like at the end of the day, let's just do something really cool and take care of our clients and take care of each other.
Right. And as long as everything gets done,
yeah,
it doesn't always necessarily need to be between 8 and 5.
Right.
Right. And you have to have flexibility. And that's why you leave corporate America. That's why I left corporate America. It's like one of the most frustrating things, and this is not going to matter because corporate America is not going to watch this, but like I was telling a kid today he's a senior in college, and I had lunch with him today, and he was asking for advice because he wants to get into medical sales.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, every kid thinks that it's like that's like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But you're still being tracked on your sales, and then once you have massive success, the next month or year, they just double your quota.
Right.
And it's like there's never an opportunity to really like elevate to a level to like where that doesn't matter, right? And some people need that in their life. But why not go do something? Like I basically steered him away from that whole thing. I was like, listen, it was good. If you want to go do it and try it out, and you think you can get into it, then that's great. But man, if I was your age, that's not what I would be thinking about.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 21, graduating with a biology degree. You don't want to be a doctor, but you got a biology degree to go be a pharmaceutical sales rep. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, you're smart, great personality. He was a bartender. He's a bartender at Culinary Dropout in Old Town.
Yeah, in Old Town.
Stewart was having a drink there, and he had recognized the kid from working at the Annex in Flagstaff. And the kid was bartending, training, taking his test, actually, when Stewart sat down. And the lady, his boss goes, he's actually taking his bartender test right now. And then he goes, and the guy goes, no, it's fine, it's fine. And he goes, yeah, I used to be a bartender in Flagstaff. And Stewart goes, dude, I just met you at Flagstaff at Annex, and says to the boss, dude, this guy's one of the best bartenders I've ever had in my life. I brought my whole family in there. He got us a table, 2 families, 12 tables, incredible. And he's like doing his test. Just like,
That's awesome.
Let's hear this stuff. And she's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm like, dude, you have that ability, and a biology degree means you're very good. Like, you're smart.
Right. Personable,
and you're
smart,
great. And you're only 21. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't go be a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Yeah.
Go like do something bigger than that.
Well, I think no one goes to school.
Sorry, Uncle John, by the way. Sorry, Uncle John and my dad and myself.
Everybody who is in pharmaceutical sales.
I'm just like, dude, at your age, like the world's your. If you want like a paycheck, go do it. But man,
well, I'd
rather do something else.
So I would say, as a 21-year-old, like unless you know somebody, right? Like you have no resume, really, unless someone takes a chance on you.
Yeah.
Like getting into sales, number one, I think you have to start in a restaurant or hospitality or something while you're young. Like hands down, my kids will go through it. Mm-hmm. Like you have to. I went through it in college. I was a server at Oregano's. I opened the Mesa store. And when I was like 19 years old, it's like one of the best chapters ever. It was so fun. Partied all the time. At the fake ID, hanging with everybody, whatever. But I mean, you have the opportunity to walk up to strangers every day, serve them, and then you get assholes that are like talking back to you, and you have to be able to like keep your cool, and then you got to remember orders, and like so there's a lot to it, right?
Yeah.
And so you hone in on your craft, but that helps you with sales and customer service, whatever, et cetera. And you go to school, and then you don't ever really end up doing what you went to school for anyway. But I think now, especially if this kid's 21 now, like imagine what we're doing now with this podcast and the self-branding and the social media and all that stuff. If we were doing this 20 years ago, if it was available to us,
we'd be retired.
Right. So that's what it should be focused on is like go, if you're not sure what to do, just self-brand yourself at this point. Just spew your thoughts and talk or whatever and build a community for whatever it is that you're passionate about. You go get a job so you can make some income, but that will eventually 10 years from now, like having an email list or having subscribers or whatever, like you can monetize that insane, right?
Yeah.
And it's like wild to think about.
Yeah. I thought of Templeton Walker and I thought of Austin Zabak, 2 guys that are very young and that are just murdering it in the real estate space. And most people, like I wouldn't tell my daughter to go do that because she doesn't have the personality to do that. But this kid reached out to Stewart and said, can I have a meeting with your business partner? Because I want to talk to him about getting, and when I didn't even know he was still in college. I thought he was out of college. And so I go meet him for lunch over here, and he's dressed up in slacks and a shirt, and he's like 6'2", good looking dude, and he was the bartender at Culinary Dropout for Stewart. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're way advanced, like right now. Like, you could go do this over here. And then he goes, okay, cool. What's the next step? That's what he said to me. I was like, fucking dude, we're going to hire this kid, I think. I was like, oh, but I think you're going to do mortgages. I'm not going to ruin your life. I think you could. Yeah. But like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, dude, you have everything that's there that maybe there's something I'm not seeing to go do something different besides that. So anyways, enough about that kid. One more thing, the digital marketing side of things too, right? Like we talk about this all the time and we just don't implement, but because we do the podcast, Trey does the video, she does the production side of things, and she can do social media. She do all the branding and the marketing and all that sort of stuff. We got Riley, who's really good at social media, that's working for us. Dude, if you go to Lane Terralever, where Parnell works, and says, hey, I want to do this, like I want a full thing, dude, people are paying $10,000 a month.
Oh, easy, to
do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't do it, right? Because we have other careers, but like Trey is young enough to be running his own business right now. He has all the opportunities we're talking about, so he's lucky, so he can still do it. And we can do it as well. We just don't because we're focusing on other stuff, which we probably shouldn't be.
We've got the wherewithal, we've got the knowledge.
Our implementation is garbage. Yeah.
We just simply do not have time to do all the stuff that between the three of us, we know we should be doing.
Yeah.
And
But we really just need to start with one person, one client, and just do it right.
Yeah.
Right? But if we really wanted to get behind somebody financially, we could get behind Trey because Trey's young. And Trey has time to do.
Well, and it's, I think it's just preparing constantly and putting in the work and figuring out what's possible. And, I mean, obviously I've seen the podcast and you do an amazing job, man. Like you could turn, if not already, this is like a full-fledged business with multiple clients up your alley. And I think obviously the resume is here with this podcast, but as an advocate for entrepreneurship, it's not an easy road, but it is like as you're through it and going through it, but it's an easy road to make the decision and just continue pushing forward. And it's challenging, but man, I don't think I could work for anybody else ever. Right. I mean, getting a W-2 from someone else just never wasn't in the cards for me. I think that's I think that it's possible. And obviously a lot of people are okay with that, but I think there's just some people, and you strike me as one of those, and you as well, Trish, to continue building things for yourselves. And I think it's really important in this day and age to build something for yourself.
Right. So this is a great segue into this right here.
Oh, Oppo Flow.
So this is kind of a cool story because you basically, this happened in Junta. We'll say Junta for you because
it's actually Junto. I looked it up to say how did Benjamin.
Oh, now we got 4 versions.
Junto, according to the
Okay, Junta.
Now we're getting all confused.
Now we're getting like Native American here.
Yeah, it's according to
Teddy's like Junto. Does he do that?
The Junto or Junto or whatever we want to call it Institute. Literally says that Benjamin Franklin pronounced it Yunto. Y-O-O-N.
Interesting. Okay.
Great.
We got to bring that up tomorrow.
Yeah. But
I think this was brought up a month ago. Maybe I made up Junta. Maybe it was Junta.
No, but actually this group, the next sentence is, but we pronounce our group Junto.
Junto. Okay. All right, whatever. So we're going to call it Yunto. All right. So anyways, our group, and then 2 years ago at our summit, 2 summits ago, you're our guest speaker. And one of the cool things that we do is we break away and we go on these summits, and it's in a different location. We've done it in Flagstaff, and this last one was at this most amazing house in Heber.
Incredible. Yeah.
Incredible. And you really get to see like how people in the group elevate to a different level, because when you have your meetings, it's like, we talk about things, you get in your little groups, and sometimes you walk away going like, I didn't get anything today.
Yeah.
Right. And then you go on these summits and you see your peers, present and what their level of presentation skills and like everything they've come together. Well, this came out of nowhere. Yeah. Nobody even knew you were doing this shit. So all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I really like this thing I started. It was an acronym, right? Opportunity, purpose, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Preparation. I'm sorry. Open mind, purpose, preparation, opportunity.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then you're like, I really like this, so I got a website started, and I'm doing you we're like all about it, right? I'm going to do this. This is something I really got. And then you did this whole presentation on OppoFlow.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that and how it started.
All right. So this podcast is like an hour long.
Yeah.
No,
how far in this are we?
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Okay. So OppoFlow was really cool because you're right. It came out of nowhere, and it was built from the mindset shift that I achieved through Junto.
There you go.
But basically, it's kind of where it came from. Like, as an entrepreneur, you have the peaks and the valleys, and you get in some deep, dark mental states sometimes, right? And so it's like, and sometimes you feel like you're on an island. And December 2021, so we had our first summit, August 2021. So then it was August 2022 was the first time I presented. So I had seen the first summit and then the second summit. December 2021, I had some, we won't get into too much of the details or we can, but I had some health issues in 2021 and other things going on.
No, we can.
All right.
So he was basically an alcoholic. I mean, let's not laugh about it, but you were drinking too much.
I wouldn't. All right. So I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but I was drinking a lot. So it was very much, So we'll get personal.
Yeah, get personal.
All right. So my dad is a recovering alcoholic. Alcoholism runs in my family, both sides. And so he hasn't drank in, I don't know, 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was always a party animal, in college and my 20s and just having a good time. Like it wasn't like, I knew when to kind of cool it, but it wasn't like out of control to the point where, it was causing too many issues. It wasn't causing any issues for anyone around me. It was more just myself causing issues internally. So anyway, COVID hits, and obviously we're like, everyone's at home drinking and, just hanging out, trying to get through life or whatever. And this is also when I'm like 3 or 4 years into the business, and like we had no staff. It was like 3 of us that were supporting hundreds and hundreds of clients, but we didn't have, because in payroll business, like you earn revenue per payroll. So when I bring on a new client, it's not like I get that money right up front. I got to wait a full year before that full revenue is realized, right?
Wow.
So it's constant growth, and it's great once you get further and further down, but you got to have the patience to do that. So we're grinding it out. And so we're, as I got older, my body just stopped processing beer, and it stopped processing alcohol the same way. I couldn't bounce back the same way.
Yeah.
But I wasn't stopping, my habits per se. So I had a few wake up calls, and there was some where, you go out on a Friday night, and then you wake up the morning Saturday and you pick it right back up again because you're hungover. And then Sunday you're just like dead to the world and whatever.
Right.
Well, during 2021, I got diagnosed with pneumonia. I had pain in my chest and whatever. And so I went to urgent care, got an x-ray, said pneumonia, put me on some antibiotics, whatever. But I'm also building all of our clients. January was the busiest time of the year. And I'm like sitting at my desk, and I remember like everything going black. Like I just was this close to fainting. I was at home, and I yelled for my wife, and I was like, Kim, I'm like, I can't see anything. And she just lay down, whatever. And like, it took me about 45 minutes to like calm down. I think it was just because I was dehydrated, hadn't eaten, and I'm recovering from pneumonia and working my tail off. 6 weeks later, I go to my follow-up, and I'm still not 100%. And the doctor's like, have you ever had valley fever? I said, no, I've never. I thought only dogs got valley fever. I didn't know it was like in humans. Like
I've had it.
Have you? Yeah, it's brutal. So I get valley fever, and it's a blood test. It's the only way they can test for it. They put me on, and if you don't know what it is, it's like a spore. It's a fungus in the southwestern part of the United States that you breathe it in. And most people don't have any symptoms, but I was one of the lucky ones. Like 10% of the people have symptoms, and it actually created a cavity in my lung. So I was losing a lot of. I couldn't breathe very well, and I had antifungal and breathing treatment for like 90 days, and it was a real thing. It was pretty scary actually. I went to the hospital one time, and it was like it was weird. So I ended that, beat that in June 2021, and then 3 weeks later I get the Delta variation of COVID. So the respiratory trifecta just rocked me, right?
Yeah.
Like I was down for like 11 days. I had to have an inhaler. I called like a pulmonologist on speed dial. Like I literally was having issues. But I was also, once I was like healthy, like when I felt good, I was still boozing, right? We were still having alcohol and still drinking and all that stuff. But now I've got a medical resume, and I never had one before. Like when I went to the hospital, like the last address they had on file was like when I was in middle school. Like I never had any issues. I was always the healthiest guy, but I was unhealthy, diet and all that stuff. So long story short, all of a sudden I'm not processing well, and now I've got a medical resume. So anytime, the Sunday scaries, right? You wake up on a Sunday, you're like, your heart palpitations, you think you're going to die. Well, I literally started to think I was going to die, because I'm like, there's issues, I can't breathe, and then it becomes a panic attack, and then there's health anxiety, and this was going on for 18 months, where it wasn't like I was. And I really wasn't drinking every day. It wasn't that.
No,
bad.
I know.
But it was like on a weekend. If I were to wake up and
you would drink a lot on one day.
Yeah, it would be more of a binger as opposed to just it wasn't just having two. That wasn't in. I would not drink during the week, and then on a Saturday night have 15.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I realized that I was starting to have these issues, and I thought it was to the point where I was like, I'm not well, and I am going to, this is it. This is the end for me. I thought that I was going to die. It was the weirdest thing. And there was one instance, it was Thanksgiving 2021, right before, we were in Junto and all this stuff. Thanksgiving 2021, went on I'm with my family in Pine Top and all this stuff. And so Thanksgiving's on a Thursday, right? So drank all day Thursday, football, whatever. Friday, we're still up in Pine Top, picked it right back up. Late night, we were up till 2 a.m., and then we drive home Saturday. Well, I was in really rough shape, but of course I'm trying to keep it cool. I'm like, yeah, we're good. And so we're driving home, and about 45 minutes into the drive, I start feeling real funky, tingly, and it's kind of giving me the chills right now talking about it. So not a lot of people know this story, Ryan. This is coming out.
Was this full blown panic attack?
This was at the time. I didn't know it was, but yes,
I've
this
had
was
the
a
same thing happen to me.
full-blown panic attack. Dude, it was it overcame my body, and I started going numb.
Right.
I was like,
you're
holy shit.
Yeah.
So I go, Kim, I gotta pull over. So I pull over, I get out, I get into the passenger seat, she starts driving. Kim's my wife, right? And so I'm laying down, laying back, and I'm trying to get my shit together. Yeah. And I just couldn't. My entire body, dude, it seized up. Yeah. It seized up to the point where I was freaking out so bad that my hands were cramped up to I couldn't move my jaw. I was a block. Everything was solid. And I literally looked at my wife and I go, this is it, Kim, this is it. I love you. This is it, but I'm done. And I thought I was dying. I thought that was the end for me. My sister is a doctor, my older sister, she's an OBGYN at Banner. And so she's when there's medical issues, she's the one that comes to the rescue. And luckily we were kind of caravanning home. My whole family was with us.
Yeah.
So we pull over, and she comes running up, and she literally just plopped her whole body on my chest because she could, and was giving me Gatorade for electrolytes. And she goes, 3 minutes into that, if you weren't calming down, then I would have known it was more of a medical issue. But I kind of had a feeling this was more of a panic anxiety thing. Mm-hmm. And so obviously I was able to calm down, and holy crap, man, I was shaky the whole time. I had never experienced anything like that in my life. And that was really scary. That was extremely scary. And my whole family was there to see it. Very vulnerable, type of situation. And just knowing family history and all that kind of stuff, I started making had some real thoughts of what's the path I'm on here?
Right.
Right? Where am I going? So fast forward to a couple months later, I raised my hand in our group, Junto, say, who wants to give internal sessions? And I raised my hand to challenge myself on purpose to give a session to the group at our next mastermind. Because I'm I need to take a break and just refocus and do different things. I didn't know what the hell I was going to talk about. I had no idea. In this group, I'm I'm not going to talk about payroll and HR with this group, right? Yeah. I had no idea what I was going to talk about. But I raised my hand and said I'd do it. And they were like, yeah, it's free reign. You can talk about whatever you want. You can kick us off. I was like, okay, shit. Now, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
I got better come up with something good. So the next 2 months go by, and I figure it out. And I realize, how did I even get into this group? How did I get to this point in my life? What were the pivotal moments that I have experienced in my life to be where I am today? And it was all around opportunity and the things that I said yes to, or the things that I didn't say yes to, and the actions I took, whether things happened terribly or things happened well. How did I pivot and learn from those different situations? So I built a session all around opportunity, which you remember. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was all kind of just the idea of opportunity. And I spent 6 months reading books, podcasts, studying, and I put together a presentation. The last slide was Oppo Flow, because 2 weeks before I'm giving this presentation was when I was building the frame, just saying, oh yeah, you know, you gotta have an open mind. You can't, can't do this if you're closed off. And then Well, then you got to know where it is you want to go. Like, what's your purpose? What do you want out of life? Like, no one's getting any younger. We're all starting to think, what does the rest of our life look like? And I was definitely thinking about what does the rest of my life look like after those types of situations. And then it's like, I'm always a knowledge seeker. We always have to prepare. And then how do you recognize good opportunities? So I realized, O, open mind, P, purpose, P, preparation, O, opportunity. I was like, Oppo, kind of a play on words with opportunity. And then once you have that foundation down, then everything kind of flows through there in a more meaningful and positive way. So Oppo Flow, I go on GoDaddy.com, domain search, and sure as shit, OppoFlow.com is available. So I reserve it.
Yeah.
And then that was on our presentation. It said, so the website is available. So I got a website. Not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but this is what I'm going to do. Fast forward a year later, I'm now doing small business team workshops on the Oppo Flow mindset. I'm doing speaking engagements. I've launched a podcast with Phil, the Success Flow podcast. And I've also launched a weekly email newsletter sharing opportunity stories and a mindset shift. And all of that came from the pivotal moments that I had in my personal life, Junto, challenging myself on purpose, put together the presentation, and building a whole nother business all around mindset and entrepreneurship and how that correlates on focusing on yourself and your health and making sure you are the happiest that you possibly can be. Because if you're not, you cannot perform at an elite level and be a business athlete that you want to be.
Right.
And so we built this out, and it's pretty much been solo, all me. And the website is, if you haven't gone to it in a while, it's like totally different than what it was a year ago.
I went on it today.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on it right now.
It's so that's all like that comes from my computer drafting and design and graphic design. Like that, I don't hire anybody. Like I'm bootstrapping the crap out of this thing. I'm not using any income from
the book,
to do
like okay, so I was asking him earlier, like who he stole this from, but it looks like something you would get like at like if you were working at like Procter and Gamble, like, and you went on like a conference. Yeah. I mean, it's like super well done. I mean, the arrow with the QR code over here.
Is this the Oppo Flow storybook?
Yeah, well, this is the book. This is what we use. I mean, this is his routine. I mean, the graphics. Come on.
Oh yeah, that's Canva. It's free.
Trisha hates Canva, but it's all cool.
Canva. Yeah,
but it looks so good and it looks so clean. And when you presented that today, I was like, dude, like, are you writing textbooks for like elementary school kids? Like, this is like really well done. So that led to, it's funny because you talked about the morning routine, because that's a huge part of it, right? The successful morning, the playbook, the stuff that you used. And that's what this was. I was just saying, what I was joking about, but it's 5:30, 5:40, 5:55, 6, 6:15, 7, 8, and 8:30. So I'll just go through this real quick. This is what you do.
Yeah. So this is my Monday through Friday, like rigid morning routine that I do.
So you don't want me to do it, Trey? No. So 5:30 a.m. he wakes up, brushes his teeth, drinks 32 ounces of water. That's hard. Yeah. The 32 ounces of water is hard to drink first thing in the morning, especially on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
So I don't believe you.
100%.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. 10 to 15 minutes. 5:40, 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, breath work, and intention setting. Seen him do it. He did it every morning that we were in fever, out in the backyard by himself, on the chair. Well, at least one of the days that's where we were doing it. 5:55, repeat morning mantra in mirror. Yeah. Do you have the same one every day?
Yeah, it's the same 3 lines.
Is it this right here?
No. Okay. I gave you some examples in the playbook.
What are yours?
I am confident in all that I do. I am I am confident in all that I do. I am prepared to take action on opportunities that align. I am an unstoppable beast.
Sweet, dude. Those are really good. Some other examples. I am confident. My passion pushes me into action. I choose happiness right here, right now. Those are some good ones, obviously. These are the things I think that, I wish that it's not too late, by the way.
Oh, 100%.
That to go to my kids and be like, wake up every day, especially the non or unconfident, whatever, however you say it, ones, right? Because I think that does help. I don't lack confidence, but I do need these things at times, right? So I do like to say shit like this to myself in the freaking rearview mirror when I'm in the car before I'm about to go do something that I'm pretending that I'm not scared to go do.
Right.
But I am. 6 o'clock, complete purpose section in the Daily Power Playbook. Talk about that.
All right. So the Daily Power is something, actually, speaking of children, I do this with my kids too. But the Daily Power Playbook is kind of your, I actually kind of built it off of, read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Love that book.
It's a fantastic book, and it's kind of like a guide or a manual of how to develop positive habits, right? And like, how do you get away from your bad habits? And at the time, right, I'm getting away from some bad habits. So I built the Daily Power, which is also an acronym. I'm an acronym junkie, to continue building and recognizing good habits that come your way throughout the day. And so it's something you can do every single day. So P is purpose. You can tell Oppo Flow is very purposeful and very driven of like, you've got to identify what it is that you're trying to achieve. But in the morning, you complete the Daily Power. What are the tasks and the goals that I want to accomplish today? How do I want to be, and who can help? Like, how do I want to be? I want to be resourceful. I want to be strong. I want to be resilient. I want to be whatever it is that you're going through. Yeah. Like, circle the words or write the words down of how you want to be. It tricks your mind in a way. It builds it into your subconscious. And the same thing with the morning mantra. If nothing else, just the morning mantra, those I am statements, those my statements, it just, your brain doesn't recognize the future or the past. It just recognizes what's going on right now when you repeat those back to you. And if you're sitting there saying, I am confident in all that I do every single morning, how do you think you're going to be every single day? You're going to be more confident than you were the day before. And you're going to continue to compound, as James Clear talks about, is that 1% incremental change day after day will compound into positive habits. So the Daily Power is you do your purpose. So I complete that in the morning. And then throughout the day, OWE is recognize the opportunities, ideas, or discoveries that you saw through the day. W is your wins. List your successes, as small or insignificant as they may seem. Just write them down, because so often we're so focused on the crappy things that happen to us throughout the day, and we're not recognizing the actual successes that we had. And then the E is the education. As a knowledge seeker, it's part of Oppo Flow is you've got to continue preparing constantly. So your education. What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about something you read in a book or a podcast or whatever? And write it all down. And then R is reflection. At the end of the day, reflect with gratitude, quick thoughts, and then rate the day, 1 through 10. So I do this with my kids. I'm driving them to school. All right, guys, how do you want to be? What are the things you want to accomplish today? And they'll tell me, and we'll talk. Yeah. And then I'll pick them up from school, and I'm like, all right, what ideas did you have today? What did you find out about yourself? What did you learn? What did you do well? What did you, how did you, and then we'll say, what rate the day? Yeah. And I remember my daughter, we switched her to a new school this year, both kids to a new school. Jack, my oldest, he's 11, 5th grade, knew some kids already. So he loved it. He had a great day. My daughter is going into 3rd grade, and she knew nobody. Like, she's coming home in tears every single day. My wife and I are like getting emotional because she's like sitting at the lunch table by herself and sitting at recess by herself. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what did we do? And she would rate it as a 1 or a 2 or a 1 or a 2. 2 weeks later, it's an 11, it's a 20. And like, just these little things of like, we knew it was going to happen, but it was really cool to put a number on it and like track that. And so I think it's really powerful stuff. And you joke how it's kind of like like the book is kind of like a school book or for kids or whatever, and visual, right? But it works. Like, it's simplified, and that's what Oppo Flow is. It's easily digestible.
I joke because I'm jealous. It's so good. I mean, it looks so good, like a big company built it. That's what I mean by, it's like, and you just did this on your own. Yeah. So don't take offense to it. It's really a compliment. 6:15, one activity, and that's workout, read or do an audiobook, write, go for a walk, run. 7 a.m. you do listen to music, shower, hygiene, get dressed and relax, eat a healthy breakfast. At 8:30, crush the day. Is there anything in here that is like by far the hardest part?
The hardest part was starting out at 5:30 in the morning, waking up. Yeah. So the reason why I chose now, and this is a successful morning, it's mine, doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody or everybody else, right? So the point is to just kind of identify some sort of routine.
Yeah, it's like the framework to start your own.
And the reason why I said 5:30 is because you got to find the quiet time in the morning where you have an opportunity to be by yourself. With 2 elementary school kids who were getting up at 6:15, 6:30 in the morning, there was no other time. Like, I had to do 5:30. Now, I was a super sleeper. Like, I always slept in. I was never an early riser. But as I got older, and part of that was probably because I was out late partying it up, right? Like, so we're sleeping it in. And so when you develop your morning routine, you also got to work on what you're doing the night before. Like, if you're acting a fool the night before, it's very difficult to manage your morning routine. Yeah. But I slowly backed up my morning, 15 minutes. So instead of 6:45, I'm waking up at 6:30. And then instead of 6:30, I'm waking up at 6:15. And then just over time, now it's like clockwork. Like, I'm up at 5 o'clock. I try to continue to 5:30 because I don't want to get up that early. But once I have established the wake up time, the rest of it, I don't even have to think about. And you know how much accomplishment and sense of like, just I've done so much before I've even started my day. It's an incredible feeling. And I don't even have any thought to it. Like, I don't have to use my brain really. Except the activity stuff is where you start building that up.
One of the things I think that, because when people see this, it does sound like a lot of things, but like you do these in like really efficient ways. Yeah. So like the meditation, right? You do the Spotify, 15-minute meditation. We're not talking about an hour. We're talking 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just get your mind right.
Yeah.
Right. And you may read, but you might do an audiobook, right? You might do a Blinkist, or you might do something like that, right? So it's like to overwhelm yourself with all the thoughts of how getting all this stuff done. It's really not like that, crazy of a situation. It's just a matter of getting up and I think finding the right routine. Like you said in Atomic Habits, writing down like what you did for the day, like 3 things, right? He says, write 3 things that you did today that you feel good about, that you accomplished, and then write 3 things that you're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
When I sit down and I write those things, I write like 10 things, right? And especially for what's going to happen the next day, because it gets me in like a rhythm. Okay, I got this. And a lot of it's personal stuff too, right? Like I got to get, I got to go drop this off, or make sure I go pick up the dry cleaning. Hey, but I also have, I have a lunch tomorrow. I'll prepare for the lunch tomorrow. I have a meeting. I have the podcast I need to prepare for it. But if I don't write that stuff down, dude, I'm like
lost.
I'm lost. Yeah. Like I sit and I go, what do I have to do today?
Yeah.
And then when I go and look at my book, when I do as I do, I'm like, but it's keeping with the routine that's so difficult for most people, right?
Yeah.
And I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be out there. Alcohol throws you off
100%.
so badly.
Yeah.
So, and I personally go through this whole like thing with myself, like, well, God, this is so much about my job is being out, being social. Yeah. And it's been this way forever. But it does get exhausting. It's not, and I have gone out and I've done the whole like, the Heineken, NA beers, drinking the club soda with ice to pretend that I'm drinking a drink. Yeah. But, fighting that demon of like, dude, I love going out.
Yeah.
Like I love hanging out with my friends. Yeah. Like that's my favorite thing to do. Right. Yeah. So then, but how is it affecting my next day? And then I go, I have more fun getting up really early in the morning and going playing pickleball sober.
Yeah.
Or not sober, but
totally.
Not hungover.
Right.
And going to bed at 8:30.
Yeah.
And but you're fighting that battle so much. And after we came back from the meeting, the summit, I found it helpful to do this stuff and share it with the team.
Yeah.
So I basically took your deal.
Yeah.
And I listened to Atomic Habits for like the 5th time.
That's awesome.
And then, I did Make Your Bed. Just anything I could. Anything I could to do that was routine based.
Yeah.
And then I'd find something in every one of those books, and I was just trying to like send it out. My goal is like a couple days a week to send out something to the team so they can kind of remind themselves about just doing the right things, keeping up with the right habits, starting your day right, ending your day right. But it's really for myself, right? So if I'm doing this, I'm not going to be a liar. And like I have to do this. Obviously, I won't even get the information to send anybody if I don't do it, because that's how I get it.
Right.
Especially with like the books, right?
Yeah.
I like to find something within, every day that I can to find that stuff out. But yeah, so you definitely inspired myself, and I've talked to a couple other guys about it too. I'm like, Justin's the same way. I'm like, he got like a lot from your presentation too. He was like, man, even though he's not in the group anymore. But it's finding the right habits, and every time I hear stuff like this, it's just like, how do I help other people do it better, because it helps me do it better.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. I'm glad it resonated and some of that stuff hit with you, because I think it's really important to, if you're defining success for yourself, whatever that looks like the only way I think you can do this, now there may be some anomalies or whatever that can continue on their bad habits and get lucky or whatever, but I think if you have healthy habits and a routine and you're focused on yourself, like you put some effort into focusing on yourself for just 45 minutes in the morning, it sets the tone for your entire day.
Yeah.
And if you have the chaos of the house, like, I've got 2 young kids, your kids are grown, but you remember what those times were like, whereas like there's no other time during the day that you can do that when you have that family lifestyle. But I feel like when you set up your morning routine and have that sense of accomplishment, and you can do it in the quiet morning and focus on yourself. It's not a selfish thing.
Yeah.
You can set the tone and the right approach to becoming the business athlete that you want to be.
Yeah.
But this was all like just this year.
Right.
So it's wild. I actually found, so you're a Storybook subscriber. So I have the weekly newsletter that I send out every Thursday afternoon. You'll see it tomorrow when it comes out. If anyone wants to subscribe, it's on opoflow.com.
Shoot us your email and he'll add you to the distribution list.
I just subscribed.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. So I found an email that I wrote to myself from October 2014. I wrote an email to myself in October 2014. I was actually looking up, trying to find, I used to run half marathons in my 20s. I was trying to find half marathon race results, but they're like archived. The last one was in 2016. But I found this email and I was like, what the hell is this? I haven't seen this thing in 9 years. It was basically like a letter to myself, like a blog post essentially of like what my mindset was, the things I wanted to accomplish, the challenges and struggles I was having. And I identified 3 goals in there. And I said, I want to strive, or I said, I want to perform better. I want to be happy. And I said, I want to live smarter. And I said in the letter, I want to strive for these things all the time because I think that they will all happen simultaneously as long as I put in the work and make it a lifestyle. Now, back then, some of the stories we already talked about, I didn't have the mental strength or discipline or consistency to do that. But those were my wants. And for the first time in my life, I've shifted those wants to I ams.
Yeah.
And the I am statements are the most powerful things you can do is when you want something and all of a sudden now you're at the point where you are that thing that you wanted to be. There's nothing more motivating than that. And so writing a letter to yourself of what your state is right now, like if you're making positive change in your life and you don't see those little incremental changes on a daily basis, but if you write a letter to yourself and then you open it with the intention to open it for a year from now or 5 years from now, and then you read it back and you're like, holy shit, like that's crazy where I was there and where I am now. I think it's one of the coolest things in the world. It's like a time capsule. Mm-hmm. And so I found this, and so now it's like, I am living smarter. And one of the biggest reasons that I am living smarter and I am happy and I am performing better is because I have greatly cut down the alcohol. I did a dry January this year to kick it off, parlayed it into dry February. So I went a full 60 days to start the year. That's when Oppo Flow blew up. So 2022 is when it was formed, kind of some social media stuff, whatever. But once I had that 60-day like sprint of clear-minded, laser focus, my team's rocking and rolling, and I'm like, oh, let's create, baby. Like, let's go to town and just let's let it all flow. And all of this stuff has been built out from there. And now I'm currently in another 30-day sprint of no alcohol. And I feel like I'm a freaking gazelle. Like you're just agile and you're nimble and you're like, it's wild. Like who knew?
You're firing at a whole different level.
Yeah. It's like, who knew? Eat healthy and drink water. And you can.
Water helps a lot too. It's amazing how much water helps.
Yeah. And I'm not like the no fun police, right?
No,
like I still like the tequila soda. And like we still enjoy your time, but it's just very different these days.
It's got to be better regulated.
Well, and there's a purpose now. Like I've defined my massive transformative purpose. I know what it is that I want. I know my vision. I have my, and I know what I want the rest of my life to look like. And some of those old habits that I was doing a couple of years ago and throughout a lot of my life wasn't going to get me there. So
when you are, do you look forward to, when you've got something on the calendar, you're like, oh, I'm going to go out with Ryan and the boys. Yeah. Are you excited? Like, oh, I get to treat myself to a tequila soda? Are you like, oh shit, how am I going to navigate this night without drinking? Or are those things you even think about?
Or you don't even go out?
No. Well, I mean, I've got an 11U club baseball kid and, my daughter's in sports. So I really don't go out too much. But to answer your question, I have had that mindset shift where I'm not going out to drink anymore. I'm going out to continue developing relationships with my friends and pick their brain and learn, right? And just share stories and whatever. And even now, like, so I'm in a group text. Phil's a part of that. And we got a couple other buddies and we'll just back and forth. Like 10 years ago, all the chats were like, cheers. Just like, it's like a bunch of bullshit. And now it's like 6:15 or I'm done my workout at 6:45 and I'm sending a workout pic. Like, get after it, gents, and another one sent, like Phil sending me an ice bath pic or whatever, like doing the cold plunge stuff. Yeah. All like 3 out of the 4, like in that mode. One guy, like he wasn't in that mode, but he kept seeing it. And now we're hearing, he's like, dude, just because you guys have been putting that out there, I've actually changed some habits that I've in my life because we're all at that point. We're starting to think about what the rest of our life looks like. So to answer your question, I don't even think about the alcohol really. It used to be like, let's go out and party and get hammered, but not at all anymore because I love the morning so much.
Yeah. One of the things that helped me a lot was what I realized when I started to try to do like preparing for the next day is like, it's like set your clothes out for the morning if you're gonna go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, set my clothes out for the morning to go to the gym, be there by 5:30. So I leave the house at 5. But I would also set out my clothes for the day, right?
Yeah.
And then I'd leave in the morning and I'd get done. And then I was like, where are my clothes for the day? And then I realized, oh shit, this isn't going to work for me. I need to put my clothes in my car the night before in order for me to know that my clothes are there for the next day. Because if I'm going to go to the gym or go play pickleball or whatever in the morning, I have to come here to work, to shower here and get ready here, which gets me here at like 7:30, ready to go, fired up, and being in the office when nobody's even here. I go out there, I turn on the music, and I just like, I'm here, and I'm like, dude, like I can either be here at 7:30 or 9:30, right? And that helps. It helps me stay motivated for the day, but also my energy level is like through the roof.
Yeah.
When I'm out, believe me, I hate getting up early too. Like it's not my thing, but it's getting way easier because you know why? I'm falling asleep at 8:30.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you fall asleep a lot earlier.
Yeah, so that helps. And when you're getting up at 4, and you're like, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. You're like, well, you've been asleep for 8 hours.
We're grandpa status now. Like it's not.
Yeah, it's not that bad. But like, I know tomorrow night I have a Charo meeting, and it's like the first one of the year, like where everybody's back in town, kids are in school.
Yeah.
And I know that Friday I'm not gonna go do anything in the morning, and I'm also okay with that. Everybody out there. So it's like, I'm gonna pick and choose my battles.
Totally.
But I'll just go back to one thing that you said before that I've been thinking about a lot. So I'm gonna make this about me right now. So our last 2 kids left the house, right? So now people call it empty nesters, but I hate that because it makes me sound like I'm super old. But we no longer have kids in the house.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes me think a lot about my kids, and about like what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and maybe how the things I could have done better, or like when I hear about things, I'm like, I wish I really need to do this, like this sort of stuff. Even like, hey, have my kids do the affirmations in the morning. Like, if they lived in my house, I'd be like, do this, right? Yeah. And they're like 5, but they're not. So I think about that stuff, and it's making me maybe contact them more on things. But when people ask me all the time, like, oh my God, how happy are you to have your family? Like, dude, you can leave North Phoenix now. Like, you can do whatever you want. And my idea was, oh my God, the kids are gonna be empty nesters. We can leave. And I'll tell you what, it sucks.
Yeah,
it's not cool. It's like we're lost. Like, I don't like the kids not being there because it wasn't just the kids. It was like all their friends. Yeah. Like, it's like, and I hated the carpets being dirty all the time and the glasses everywhere and trash everywhere and fucking sloppy. And I'd be just grouchy because it's like, dude, no respect for the house and yada, yada. And now I'm like, I come home and it's like the dogs are the only thing that make this, like we have the dogs, right? And now they're like, we always were obsessed with the dogs, but now it's even worse. But all you parents out there that you think that, once the kids go, man, you're free to go do whatever the hell you want to go do. That might be the case, but it's not fun. It's way more fun when they're around and you can talk to them and laugh with them and cry with them and get mad at them and all those days of going to the soccer practices and basketball, volleyball, whatever, whatever you're doing, all the dance. Like, take advantage of that shit. Yeah. Do not let that stuff, because it goes by like that, and next thing you know, they're in their dorms and your new problems start.
Yeah. I'd say there are always issues, and unfortunately, as they age, those issues tend to have larger consequences. So I think, my experience, all 3 of my kids are adults now and have been out of the house for a while. It's almost scarier. It's more fun because you can go out and do cool things with a child who's actually now an adult. You can,
work
not that you ever want to be like your BFF with your son, right? But we can go grab dinner and a drink, and that's cool. We couldn't do that when he was 7. But, man, my youngest just left for school 5 weeks ago, and she's in Oklahoma now in grad school. And I was on the phone with her last night, and it was cool for like the first 10 minutes, and then I found myself sobbing. I mean, I was like keeping it together on the phone. I got off the phone with her, and I just started crying. I almost called you, Trey. And so, yeah, sorry, tangent, but
It's not the first time I've heard
that
before.
Yeah, and I think that all kids are different. The thing about this kid is she lives with a very structured roommate who's a James Clear nut.
Really?
Right? And so Paloma's now reading it for the first time. Her roommate's read it for like the 5th time. And on their refrigerator, they've got their, before they go to bed, they write 3 things. And literally it's displayed. 3 things they were thankful for, that happened for the day. Their 5 goals for the following day. Their calendar. And they know that on Tuesdays they're going to cook together. On Wednesdays they've got a study group. And it's all right there. You can't help but look at it.
Right.
And it's like you suck if you don't do it. And Paloma's like, I have no choice because my roommate is so good, And it's cool to see 22-year-olds already like buy into what you're talking about now. And,
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. So 2 things I'll say is, so it's not the first time I've heard that when your kids leave and they graduate and they go to college and it's like, fuck, like, what am I, like my identity kind of was me being with my kids, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like right in the middle, right? I'm an 11 and 9-year-old. So I've experienced the first 10 years and I'm like thinking like, shit, 10 more years from now, I'm going to be there, right? Like my kids are going to be in college and I'm fearful of that already because I'm like, what are all the things that are going to happen? And so I want to develop this stuff with them. But so going back to like the I am statement, the affirmations and all that stuff and like I don't know. I never want to say like the old me and the new me or whatever. It's just like it was always me. It's just I've had a mindset shift, right? So I would always think this stuff was woo-woo and like, what the heck, meditate or like go talk to someone about my feelings or like open up. Like why would I do any of that? Like I'll figure it out internally and whatever. And then I start going through this stuff by myself behind closed doors, right? Now, I mean, obviously with my wife and like, we're very open in communication and, I think talking to the marriage talk is like, as long as you communicate and you're always going to change and all that, I think that helps with longevity of marriage is if you have that open communication with each other as you continue to grow. But when you have this mindset shift and you're trying to do all these things and make change for yourself, you start talking about it more with other people. And then they're all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I've done that. But they haven't told you, like, you didn't know that. Like you're just, you're sharing your story. And the more you share your story and the things that you're doing, I think more you'll be surprised how many people will relate and resonate with you on that. Like when I shared the story about that drive home from Ponte, you're like, oh, I've been there, right? Like, like that's happened to other people. Like I'm not on an island. And I think that was the hardest thing is thinking it's like, oh, it's only me.
Because you told a different story.
No.
You didn't get into the first time you told the story, you didn't talk about the tingling feeling that you were like going to have a panic attack. It was more like I thought you were having the heart issues. So you may have done it, but that's what I got out of it. Today, as soon as you started doing it, I knew, oh, it's okay. This is a different version maybe. Not that you meant to do it, but I just, maybe that's what I was going to. But
so at the summit, I didn't even, during my presentation, I didn't even bring that story up until I think Justin might have been the one that brought it up. And I kind of made a couple of comments about it, but I didn't get into the detail of it. But yeah, long story short is like when you're, this stuff is like you're doing it by yourself in the quiet morning or you're doing it with your family behind closed doors, like give it a shot and see how you feel. Yeah. Like don't be too proud or too closed-minded or closed off to not try some of this stuff. Like as simple as an I am statement mantra that you say to yourself every morning or just drinking water in the morning and like holding off on the coffee for 90 minutes if you can. Like all those little things compound and just really make you a better version of yourself because of your mindset and how you feel.
Yeah.
But
so it's a rapid fire question I'm going to throw at you.
Okay.
Who other than James Clear do you admire or do you go to for inspiration? Is there a book or an author or somebody that you think that we should all explore?
The catalyst to a lot of this stuff, Jason Payne, State 48 Roofing?
Yep.
Was MenaceCon in January.
Yeah.
So MenaceCon's dead. It's not a thing anymore. But MenaceCon was
Ed Milet.
Ed Milet was there. Bradley, Sean Whalen, Kent Clothier. They had an amazing speaker lineup. It was in January. Journey, they're clients of ours. We sponsored his conference. I didn't leave the room. I sat there and for 2.5 days and just listened to these guys talk. And the biggest one, I think, was Ed Milet. He's probably the most
famous,
popular. The most famous out of all of them, which they're all incredible. But I think Ed Milet's story of his dad, who also was a recovering alcoholic, and how my dad has a different take than what his dad says. But his dad was like, I'm not going to be sober for the rest of my life. I'm going to be sober for one more day. And so he has this one more mentality. Yeah. And so I picked up his book. Have you heard of this one, The Power of One More?
Yep.
So I read that one, and I think it was a really cool book because James Clear's book is very actionable items. It's like a manual. It's a guidebook.
Yeah.
Ed Milet's was more personal story.
Yeah.
And like how he got to where he is going and like the things that happened in his life. So I would say he's another one that I've really kind of studied and looked at too. And some people also look at him as like, ooh, super positive guy all the time and whatever. And it's like, but at the end of the day, that stuff works. Like, why wouldn't you want to be positive? You know what I mean? And so like finding people that you can look up to in terms of like, you don't have to know them personally.
Yeah.
But if you can follow them and understand what makes them tick and just listen to the things that they're saying and try to implement some of those, I think you can make real change in your life. So I would say Ed Milet would be one of those guys.
Have you brought this into your office? Like, do your employees practice this as well?
Yeah, so we do quarterly meetings, like all team meetings and stuff. And so like, I think, was it the bamboo for you and a starfish too or something that I did? So it shared some short.
That was one of your blog posts.
Yeah, last week. It was the storybook issue. But they're just little inspirational stories. And so during our quarterly meetings, like I always have something I bring to the table and share some of these stories. But I tell my team, like, these are the things that I'm working on. Now, it may not always be directly like face to face. We talk about what success looks like. Like my payroll manager, Frankie, and I, just this week, we're talking about morning routines. And so we talk about each other's morning routines and whatever, and how that's important to us. So yeah, I do. But so since we have the podcast, that's been the coolest thing to drive this home with my team is I'm not talking like having a one-to-one meeting with them in person, but they tune into the podcast and they read the storybook. And so they have an opportunity to tap into the things that I'm working on and the things that I'm sharing without me even knowing, but I'm told that they are. And there has been, I'm not kidding, in the last like 6 months, there has been a total mindset shift with the group of like, okay, I see where I want to go and these are the things I want to do. And it's because of, I think, the things that I'm continuing to put out there. And that was never the plan. Like that was never the idea. Let's do a podcast or start a newsletter or whatever. It was always to try and help people, but I didn't think it would be directly like I can see it with my team. And I think that's one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
Is that they're able
What's
to
the name of the podcast?
Success Flow Podcast.
So we have Phil next week.
Oh, he's coming on next week.
Yeah, next week. So that's going to be a good segue from you into him. And because Phil's the other guy that, you know, are you guys the same age? He's younger than you,
He's
right?
a year younger, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So we met, I was 22, he was 21. Mm-hmm. We partied together the whole, like, he's got a similar story, right?
Yeah.
But he's way more into the meditation and the breath work. That came from him. Yeah. So I think next week's episode is going to be really cool to listen to, like, how he tapped into the subconscious.
Yeah, he's more in the flow of the subconscious. And
I've learned a lot from him.
Me too. And his presentation was really good as well, you know.
He took us through a 20-minute meditation. It was like insane.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And so I'm excited about that. So probably going to wrap it on that one. I think it's a good segue because we're going to have Phil next week, and it's kind of just going to be coupled with yours. But dude, thanks for coming for sure, dude. This was awesome. I knew it was going to be good based upon our relationship, but based upon the presentation that we had last week, because it was our last summit. It was really, really good. And to everybody out there listening, if you've made it this far, please go to all our social media platforms, Into the Storm, and then go onto YouTube, like and subscribe, please share. We are doing shorts now as well, which helps, which I know. And obviously, if you when you get all the assets from us, you know, you're gonna be part of, what's it called again? When we share it with you, but collaborate.
Yeah.
But we're still sending the assets out to everybody correctly so they can do it on their own. It's like what I find is that most people they're just using the ones that we put out and we let them collaborate with and they go with it.
Caitlin put hers out before we even did.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess Brandy told me Monday.
Put what out?
A clip is what she said. I don't know if she clipped out of YouTube. Yeah, she created her own short or whatever, but it showed up on social media on Monday.
That's good. I think that our clips are going to be pretty good. I think we're going to get some good ones out of this one, and I think they're probably going to blow up. in a way for the
Dude,
more than you've had so far.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you having me on, man. Like this is awesome being in the studio, and obviously I've listened to a lot of your episodes, and you're a great friend of mine. So thanks for
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
You need to get Ryan on your. Do you have guests or is it?
Yeah. We're gonna get him on.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get him on for sure. We're virtual, so I don't know. Either we'll just
I
kind
can
of
do
hijack
virtual.
his studio, or
Oh, I said that. I was like,
Yeah.
you guys can come here and do it here if you wanted to.
we could.
We'll just hide into the storm.
We'll put a blanket over it because that's how podunk our podcast is so far.
Trey can make it look like it's just all wood.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. Yeah, no.
So it's good.
We'll figure it out.
And yeah, that's about it, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.